March the 4th, 1982. John Belushi is one of the most famous faces in America. Hollywood royalty.
John is an American hero, and his life was an American tragedy.
We all thought we were invincible back then. I mean, who doesn't when they're 23, 24 years old?
He was a good man, but a bad boy, but extremely funny.
He's a comic genius with a fatal flaw.
John did everything in his life to excess.
He was on a binge.
I was going to go out there that night. It was just that close.
Tragically, in 24 hours, Belushi will be dead, poisoned by a toxic overload of drugs. Los Angeles, March the 4th, 1982. It's midday, and John Belushi glides down Sunset Boulevard on his way to a power meeting. It will be his last. This is the beginning of his final 24 hours alive. Belushi has been using cocaine since he arrived in LA 4 days ago. His meeting is with the two men who, more than anyone, have been responsible for making him a star. Michael Eisner, the president of Paramount Pictures, and Belushi's manager, Bernie Brillstein.
The purpose of the meeting was to decide what movie John was going to do for his commitment to Paramount. It was like George Clooney. They were coming to talk George or John into this movie.
At the meeting, there's just one item on the agenda, Belushi's next movie. Eisner wants him to star in The Joy of Sex, a farcical takeoff on a popular sex manual. He's convinced it'll be a surefire moneymaker.
They saw him as a star that could put people in the seats, and there was a project that was hanging around the studio that wanted to get made. They had an option on it. They'd paid money to get it written, and they saw John as the expressway to get it done.
Belushi resists. His instincts tell him that The Joy of Sex will be a career-damaging disaster and a personal embarrassment.
I don't need nothing, babe.
He was saying, you have to read it, you're not going to believe it. And, you know, and so they want me to wear a diaper in this movie. That's how it's going to open, like I'm a baby in a diaper.
I promise you it's going to be great.
During the meeting, Belushi receives a call from his friend and fellow actor, Dan Aykroyd. Aykroyd gives him some advice.
Hey, Dan.
Oh, don't do that piece of shit. Are you kidding me? Come on. Get away, get away. Get out, get away. Come home. It's the spring. Things will happen over the summer or the fall. We'll figure something out. I was writing Ghostbusters right then, which he would have been in. And I said, don't worry, John. We're going to cover it. We're going to do great stuff, you know. Don't be pressured to do this. Come home.
Sounds good. Yeah, bye. Bye.
Belushi flatly refuses to do the movie.
It was very nice. No one yelling. There was no crazy thing. And it was finally decided that it was a stalemate. You know, no one was going to do anything.
But Belushi has a hidden agenda. He's battling an addiction that's getting the better of him.
All right, I'll get it for you. How much is it gonna cost me? $1,800.
John Belushi, God bless him, is an addict A to Z. And just like every other addict, it's a deadly disease. And there's always reasons that people use, but fundamentally it's the addiction that kills them.
Just 3 years earlier, Belushi had the #1 movie, the top-rated TV show, and the #1 album, all at the same time. No other entertainer had ever done that.
Well, that's one of those career highlights that one gets once in a career. John had Soul Man at the top of the record charts. He had Saturday Night Live at the top of late-night television. And he had the #1 comedy in the nation. And we all shared the abundance, and it was a time of celebration. And you know, massive adrenaline rushes and just really good times.
It was a heck of a ride. It was a good ride, most of the time. For a couple of times, just hanging on, but it was scary sometimes. It was exciting. It was fun. It was innovative. It was different. Life with John was very fast. It always was fast. He always was on a fast track. He had a lot to do. He was very busy. John was a person who seemed on a mission in general in life. Like a little tornado. He just went through life and brought people along, and I think that most people enjoyed their time, but he did have more energy than most people.
Belushi was a comic genius. He was unpredictable, outrageous, a master of slapstick.
Like Keaton or Chaplin, any of those people, and I would definitely compare him to those people as a comedian. He had a great ability to physicalize. So he could make you laugh by raising his eyebrow.
He wanted to do more, to branch out into more serious roles. But the studios only wanted the Belushi they knew from his earlier movies.
They'd love to have me do Animal House Goes to Camp, Animal House Joins the Army, Animal House Rides a Space Shuttle, you know, but it's not the way I work. You know?
The trouble is, Belushi hasn't had a hit movie in 3 years, and the pressure is beginning to take its toll. John Belushi has turned down the sex comedy the studio have lined up for him. Next, he changes the agenda. He's borrowed money from his manager before and now tells him he wants cash to buy a guitar.
Come on, Bernie.
And we had cash in the office, and I gave him $1,800 cash. It was me. God knows I didn't know what was going to happen.
But the money is not for a guitar.
To be at the meeting that he allegedly came here for and to ask for money for drugs in the middle of the meeting, that's good drug addict behavior. That's how they behave. What's going through his head is, where am I going to get my next hit? Where can I get drugs?
With $1,800 in his pocket, Belushi's drug binge is about to hit a new and dangerous level. Belushi's cocaine addiction began 7 years earlier on the set of Saturday Night Live.
America was ripe for a new generation of humor, and we just hit it at the right time. Of course, we were absolute rebels, you know, and really ill-behaved and really bratty and ratty.
Why me, man? I mean, why me?
I think there was just an attitude of rebellion and irreverence, and don't trust the old order, which was part of why the show could succeed.
In the late 70s, there was also a new attitude to drugs. Cocaine was easy to source, and the television industry was fueled by it.
Monday, we come up with an idea. Tuesday, we wrote it. Wednesday, we read it. Thursday, we blocked it. And Saturday, it was on the air. It was, for a writer, it was great. We got to produce our own pieces. We were given a lot of autonomy. So from that point of view, it was wonderful. But it was video commando time. We were live. There was a lot of pressure and stress. I relieved it by punching out the ceiling in my dressing room so I had a little more air. People thought that was a temper tantrum. That wasn't. It was merely me physically trying to get a little more space in there because I was feeling claustrophobic. We let off steam on the weekends after the show.
To be there and work there was to be like in a subway station for the rich and famous. To be at a party where, you know, there'd be Keith Richards and William Burroughs and Baryshnikov and Andy Warhol, you know, plus the cast, plus people from Hollywood, you know, all in the same place. And so that's sort of unduplicatable. But it's also a great lesson because after that, you know, there's hardly a party that is going to really impress me now.
The cast once had to do 4 shows in a row without a break. By the last week, almost everyone was using cocaine to keep going.
It's 3 in the morning and you have to think of 3 more jokes before 5 a.m. and you're falling asleep and someone puts out a line of cocaine. You have to be extremely strong-willed not to do it, simply because you need to stay awake. Not because you're going to be funnier.
For Belushi and many on the show, coke was seen as just a harmless stimulant, virtually risk-free.
Business.
Thank you very much. You can go.
The entire culture had found this new thing, cocaine. And it's easy. If I take a sniff, you'll get fun. You're not putting a needle in your arm. It's very clean.
It was perceived as a drug that would help creativity, it would assist in loquaciousness and solving the world's problems and exchanges. So it was just prevalent and ubiquitous. And I think to John, it was something that kept him up at night. It stimulated his, his thinking.
But Belushi seemed to be using more than anyone else. He started going on binges.
I think with John in particular, his appetites were always big, and that's where, part of his problem was. He always did a little more than anyone else. He always went a little longer than anyone else.
John was a man of the night. He loved being John Belushi. He loved to sing in clubs. And at the time, I believe people were doing a lot of drugs. And I don't think he separated himself from the drugs. But it wasn't big-time drugs. It was just really... You can't go back and understand that time. It was a time of Studio 54. It was a time of great separation of young people and old people. And a lot of people were doing drugs who couldn't handle them, including adults, people, lawyers, everyone. So if you kept John out of trouble and kept him focusing on what he was doing and his career, which he really didn't care about that. Well, when you get hot so fast, you don't have time to care. You think, more, they'll keep giving me more.
John had an insatiable appetite for everything, for life, for all of the tastes and pleasures and sensations, from, motorcycle speed to, a good, to 3 pieces of cherry pie.
And he seemed like a bull. People thought he could do anything.
And at that period of history, people didn't acknowledge the potential risk. There was a lot of sort of whatever sort of feeling about drugs and alcohol. They had no distinction between abuse and addiction. Addiction, you can't stop, even when you want desperately to stop. It's a biological process. It's different for different people, and once you cross that line or throw that switch, you're there. It's really a question of pharmacology and biology than any real psychological issue. The speed with which you get there sometimes has to do with what's going on emotionally with you, because you're looking for solutions, trying to feel better, can't regulate, can't trust. But once you're there, you're there.
Everyone thought it was the hippest thing in the world. And no one thought they'd die from it. No one.
Without realizing it, over the 3 years he worked on the show, Belushi developed the addiction to cocaine that he would struggle with for the rest of his life. John Belushi has 22 hours left to live. Using the cash he borrowed from his manager, he's on a mission to score some drugs. He's barely slept in the past 4 days. He arrives at a friend's apartment. She has a valuable contact who's also there, Kathy Evelyn Smith, a dealer and junkie.
How you doing? Welcome to LA. How are you?
Smith has spent years traveling with rock bands, supplying them with drugs. The 3 of them do coke. Belushi's wife, Judy, is at their home in New York. She knows he left for LA on a mission to get high and tried to stop him.
He was on a binge, and, I wanted to, knew if he went back, it wasn't going to end. he had a mindset and just plowed right ahead. You know, made the choice.
Belushi's friend Dan Aykroyd is also in New York, at his office just a couple of blocks from Judy.
The thing is, with John, he didn't even have to buy it. You know, people loved him so much, they wanted to hang out with him and socialize with him. So they would buy it for him and give it to him. Like, you know, he would show up at a party and they'd automatically, here, have fun. And he would be collecting all this coke, and it was, you know, Judy's job and my job sometimes to confiscate without his knowledge and to get rid of it.
With his wife and best friend on the other side of the country, Belushi is far away from those who care about him. He now takes some of the cash he got from Brillstein and gives it to Smith, sending her off to get more drugs. This time, it's not for cocaine. Belushi wants heroin. He's losing control, sliding deeper into his drug-fueled binge, and there's no one around to tell him to stop. Just 2 years earlier, Belushi and Aykroyd were about to take the Blues Brothers on tour. They'd created the characters on Saturday Night Live, and the movie had been a smash hit. But Belushi knew he had a problem, and he wanted to deal with it for the tour. He hired a bodyguard, Smokey Wendell, to keep him away from cocaine.
He said, you know, I have all this going on, the Animal House, the Saturday Night, and I'm working on these other projects, and all of a sudden, it's just going too fast for me. And if I don't somehow get a hold of myself and get control of myself, I won't be around in the next 2 or 3 years.
Smokey was great. He was ex-New York State Police, ex-Louisiana State Police, and ex-Secret Service. He had gone with Nixon to China. He was a very colorful and wonderful character who had John's best interests at heart.
I was asking him why he was so dependent on it. Why did you always have to feel the need to go? Because most of the time, it's usually basically loneliness, pressure, more insecurities in yourself that you can't live up to that. And I believe when we talked about it, it was that. People always wanting him to be funny, people always wanting him to be on. There was no space. So that's why he would have to go to Candyland.
On Belushi's last day, the drug that had once offered an escape was now controlling his every move. It's late afternoon, and John Belushi has less than 19 hours left to live. After doing cocaine with Kathy Smith, he asks her to score heroin. Belushi then returns to his apartment at the Chateau Marmont in Hollywood. He makes a number of phone calls, first to Brillstein saying he's changed his mind. He will do the joy of sex after all. Next, a call to Michael Eisner, head of Paramount, telling him the same thing. Belushi now phones Eisner's senior vice president, Jeff Katzenberg, and arranges to meet on Friday.
Tomorrow afternoon.
Sure.
In a typically outrageous Belushi move, he tells the Paramount executive to give him a wake-up call.
Okay.
Katzenberg writes it in his calendar.
Thanks.
The executives believe Belushi is now on board.
I have medical students every day in my unit, and I always train them to put their fingers in their ears when an addict is talking to them, because what they say is all bullshit, it's all obfuscation, it's all distortion, it's all their brain trying to find a way to get them out of there so they can continue using. So what you got to respond with an addict is how they make you feel, and learn to sort of intuitively read all that. And so this issue of John weighing out scripts and being so disturbed by that, there's no addict I know gets into that kind of nuance. It's more that he wanted to go use, he didn't want to do anything.
True to form, the next call Belushi makes is to Kathy Smith to find out if she's scored the heroin. He wants to hook up immediately.
Kathy, it's John. Yeah. How fast can you get here?
His brain at that point will be going, use or die, use or die. The brain believes if it doesn't continue using, and believe is not really an accurate word, it manifests through neurobiological mechanisms that if the individual doesn't continue using, they will die. So use or die.
Belushi shows no signs of slowing down. He and Kathy Smith spend the next 4 hours constantly on the move. Buying and consuming drugs, the pace frenetic and surreal. At one point, Belushi calls Dan Aykroyd in New York.
He left me a message, a slurred, drunken kind of message that was just indecipherable. And I heard that on the answering machine, and then I just continued working.
But Belushi's message worries Aykroyd. He'd been on the receiving end of these calls before. He walks from his office to Judy Belushi's Greenwich Village apartment. He and Judy have to take action.
It was clear we, had to help stop him, try to get him some other kind of help. I think Danny felt very immediately worried. He may have been more in touch with the reality of it from having heard that tape.
They decide they have to rescue John and get him out of Los Angeles. Judy calls Smokey at his home in Virginia.
She said, do you think you can find some time for John? And I had always told her, never thinking it would happen. I would say, hey, if you ever need time, I will make time. Whatever I'm doing, I would do. And I said, okay, fine, I'll be out there tomorrow.
Smokey tells Judy he'll fly to LA and bring Belushi home. But tragically, he didn't get to make that journey for her. Judy and John were childhood sweethearts. They met at high school. She was 15, he was 17.
The first time I saw John, he was on stage. He was doing the varsity show, the big event in town. I'd seen a lot of these shows, and he was one of the best, and I knew it immediately. This guy has talent.
They grew up in Wheaton, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. John came from a family of hard-working Albanian immigrants.
His parents weren't really happy together, and I feel that he knew that, sensed it, and I think that, kids are unhappy if their parents are unhappy. And I think a little bit of his humor around the house when he was young had to do with learning early that he could make his mother laugh, that she was a good audience, and maybe a little bit feeling like by making her laugh, he was making her happier. But I think also as he grew up, he realized, well, I know, he said to me he could never make his mother happy. And I think, that's one of those things that kids really suffer from.
Dan Payne was Belushi's high school drama teacher. He remembers the first time he saw Belushi. It was at an audition.
The music director said, well, John, what are you going to do? He said, and he just started, well, I was going to tell some stories, and he started telling things. He was like a stand-up, and they were really funny. And all you could hear, the other students waiting to audition, standing backstage, they were all laughing. So this guy said to me, this guy's hilarious. The kids just love him. We're going to put him in the show. He fit in everywhere, and I don't quite know why. He was short. He was stubby. I never, you've seen the pictures of him. I don't think you'd say he was a nice-looking kid, good-looking guy, but he was not, quote, handsome. He wasn't the big blonde idol kind of guy. He was just sort of there, but people, there was something about, he was a very magnetic personality.
By the time John finished high school, he was the football captain, the homecoming king, and voted most popular student. He liked to surround himself with people and always stood out in the crowd.
I would say that John needed the group. He was a tough guy. I mean, alpha male, Illinois, heterosexual, toughie, but with, an open heart. I mean, he was very sensitive and vulnerable, and this is partly the reason that he came to the demise that he did, that he trusted people.
Tragically, on his last day, Belushi now put his life in the hands of a known junkie. It was to be a fatal error. It's now early evening, and Belushi has less than 14 hours left to live. He and Kathy Smith arrive at the Roxy nightclub, a Hollywood landmark that leads to an exclusive upstairs bar on the rocks. Celebrities can do what they want here without being bothered. Slipping through a side door into the bar, Belushi is agitated, his mind racing. He's complaining to anyone who'll listen about the pressure he's under to do the joy of sex and the pressure of being John Belushi. Belushi and Smith go to the bathroom. A potent cocktail is being prepared, a mixture of cocaine and heroin that produces an immediate euphoric rush. It's called a speedball. Belushi has just upped the ante. He's about to inject cocaine, and he's added a powerful opiate to the mix: heroin.
It's an extremely powerful delivery of large doses of the drug right to the brain. And what you see in humans when they're delivering the cocaine by this mechanism, they begin behaving like laboratory animals. Laboratory animals, when you give them free access to cocaine, will use straight for a couple weeks and die. That's just about what humans do. They will either run out of money or they will die. And a binge on cocaine, as I've said, is where the first hit feels great, the next however many, each one feels subsequently worse until you develop a psychosis. It always develops. You know you're going there, and yet you can't stop from starting it. And once you start, you can't stop till you're done, till you run out of money or something horrible happens to you.
Belushi and Smith spend 5 hours at On the Rocks, making more than one trip to the bathroom. Belushi seems unable to stop.
By the way, if John Belushi stayed in Wheaton, Illinois, where he was born, he would have been the same guy. Same way. You can't blame someone for someone's drug problem. It's the person who thinks he can handle it, then all of a sudden he can't. And when you're doing drugs, what do you want of drugs? You don't want a career.
John was really good at creating characters, but he hadn't gone through the maturity, which there's no age for it. But I think maybe it was a little, it was late. He was 33 when he died. He hadn't gotten to the point where he let go of the child, didn't let other people define him, and decided for himself that he was who he was, a good person, worthy of everything good that came to him, and those kind of ideas that I think give you your strength. And he didn't have that.
On his last day, Belushi is a shadow of his former self. His body is slowly being destroyed by the drugs he's consuming. It was all very different when Belushi was in his 20s. After college, he moved to Chicago with Judy. It was here he got his start at the training ground for America's top comedians, the famous Second City Theater.
He knew that night. He said that night, "This is what I want to do. I'm gonna get up here one day."
In 1971, he did. He went straight to the main stage without having to train with one of the touring companies. That had never happened before, nor has it been repeated since.
Oh, it was incredible. He walked on stage, he didn't have to open his mouth. One knew that he had enormous presence, and then he turned out to be a good actor.
Belushi was a high-octane performer. He pushed at the boundaries for the rest of the cast.
Of course, it was the perfect scene for John because he was given permission to be insane, you know. And John was one of, like, our bellwether. He sort of rode point for us as our little comedy wagon train went out into the wilderness. If John went, wherever John went, you know, anything south of John was sane.
An actor has a very ambiguous position vis-a-vis an audience. He has to expose himself to them, so to speak, and he has to ask them for his confirmation. And there's something in him that needs to ask, and something in him which hates that need to ask.
There was no sign of the addiction problems to come that were to destroy Belushi.
When he was at Second City, I think he was still young enough and buoyant enough that he didn't need a lot of pharmaceuticals to amuse him. He was so just thrilled to be on stage. I don't think he was more pharmaceutically inclined than the culture around him.
He had an enormous amount of self-assurance and confidence, way beyond either his age or his level of achievement. He just knew he would make it, and you knew he would make it.
Chicago was, I think, a big formative time for John. He was on top of the world there. It was the safest place to be. He was successful. He was supported by his teammates. People would come in from out of town to look at him and say, "You're doing a great job. Come out and screen test for us." But he could always return home to Chicago. He could count on the audience to embrace him. He knew what restaurants to go to. He knew where to get coffee at 2 in the morning if he wanted to take a walk. He had nice roommates. He had Judy, who was fabulous and supportive in Iraq. It was he still had a dream. And so I think nothing could compare to those days.
After Second City, Belushi got his break on Saturday Night Live. But everything changed when he won a part in the low-budget movie Animal House. He became an international superstar overnight.
Opening night, I had never seen anything like it in New York. It was just crazy. The theater was crazy.
So it was a big night. It was a premiere, and it was in New York City, and he was like, one of the stars of the movie. And it was a moment of innocence, because he went forward from that room, and I don't think it was ever the same. It just took a turn. It wasn't all bad by any means. There was a lot of good that happened after that, but it was just sort of a real moment that changed after that.
Well, you get to those heady atmospheres, it's sometimes tough to stay anchored, and I think that was certainly a factor in the usage of the cocaine and the vulnerability of John, the people who were preying upon him and kind of sucking his energy in that psychic vampire sense,
It had taken Belushi just 7 years to make it. On his 30th birthday, he'd reached superstar status. He was #1 in every medium, film, TV, and rock and roll. But in 3 short years, he would lose it all. It's close to midnight, and Belushi is still reeling from the combination of cocaine and heroin he's been injecting into his bloodstream. After 5 hours at the bar, Belushi and Smith leave. Belushi tells Smith to stop the car. He opens the door and throws up. Now they're heading back to the Chateau Marmont, Belushi's final destination. At bungalow number 3, Belushi rushes to the bathroom and is sick again. Belushi and Smith smoke a joint. He picks up his guitar, strums a few chords, and passes out. A few seconds later, he abruptly comes to. At 3:15 a.m., Kathy Smith injects Belushi with one more speedball. It will be his last. Earlier, at the height of his fame, Belushi came close to beating his addiction. Before taking the Blues Brothers on tour, he hired bodyguard Smokey Wendell. Smokey's brief was to keep Belushi away from drugs. He was put to the test on his first day. Belushi was in a recording studio learning a song for the tour. Wendell spotted an outsider talking to Belushi.
These were people that would be commonly known as suppliers. They would be able to produce party favors.
Smokey watched the dealer go into the bathroom after talking to Belushi. Smokey then went into the bathroom himself and found the drugs.
John went into the bathroom, came back, said a few words to the guy, which I knew it was basically whatever was there was no longer there. John went back in the booth, guy went back in. So we did this 3 times. We played this game. 3rd time, John was getting really annoyed with the gentleman.
Smokey then approached the dealer standing by the coffee table.
And I said, you know, there are many ways to sweeten coffee. I happen to like sweet and low. Sweet and low looks very much like this. And I had poured it into the coffee. At that point, I said to the gentleman, I said, you know, we could do this all day. I just don't know how much money you can afford to lose. The guy, got totally very uncomfortable.
The dealer tried another tactic, slipping some cocaine into a cigarette pack. Belushi announced that he wanted a smoke and picked up the cigarettes.
And he was going to put it in his pocket. Well, then I knew that there was a favor in there. That turned into a physical altercation with John and I. It was a tug of war, and we were wrestling on the floor in the studio. And the 2 guys that ran the studio, they were, I don't believe this. I can't believe this. And we got up and I said, John, look, if you want to do this, then you don't really need me here. If you don't, I mean, this is going to happen every day.
It worked. We did a tour with the Blues Brothers, and that was grueling because we had, 20 shows in 16 cities. And, we were able to meter the dosages, and John performed beautifully and effectively, and we had a great, lucid, clear, creative time. And so Smokey worked.
Belushi kept clean for the entire tour. He desperately wanted to win his battle against addiction. And by the end of the tour, he was in such good shape, Smokey felt it was time to move on.
And we had him working out and losing weight, and he would become, he said, oh yeah, the highlight of my high tonight was I got 2 more push-ups in. But he would laugh, and that would be his way of saying, hey, I can do this. He would find time to come and talk to me. I would be asleep downstairs, and he would knock on the door. And it was basically, I think he was at that point where he didn't want to sleep, he didn't want to go out, and he just wanted to talk. And it would be either about the work or the job, plans, ideas he has, his wife, how much he loved Judy, how much she meant to him. And I mean, on more than one occasion, he would say to me, you know, whatever she needs, whatever she wants, don't ever question, you just do it. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. I said, well, then you can't question why we're sitting here together, because this is what she wants. And he just smiled, and he said, boy, you got me again. And that's when I knew, as we kept bonding, that he wanted this, and then it was becoming easier and easier for him. And at that point, I was looking to move on to the next, and I just said, you know, I think you're okay to go on. And I remember him being so disappointed. And I remember him saying to me, what is it? Do you want a car? Do you want, I'll pay you more. I'll pay you. I said, it's not that. You don't, John, you don't need me.
The following summer was one of Belushi's happiest, spent at his favorite place, Martha's Vineyard. It would be his last.
You know, it was beers and wines and occasionally a little of the green stuff, but no powders or pills that summer, and it's certainly reflected in the picture where he's standing with Judy belly to belly. He's got a blue shirt on and a hat, and you can see how good his color is. He's got the full weight on. There's no gauntness there. And it was a summer of body surfing, jeep rides, running on the beach, dodging sharks. He was truly off and relaxed then. Those were wonderful moments.
He did have more energy than most people, and that was his need to slow down sometimes was something he had trouble doing. But once he got slow, he was real slow. Put him on a beach and he could stay there all day. Just keep bringing some food, water, he'd be fine.
At the end of the summer, Hollywood came calling again. Belushi agreed to star in the comedy Neighbours with Dan Aykroyd.
Well, Neighbors, we shot at night on Staten Island, and again, at that time, Coke was ubiquitous, and everybody was using it like coffee. It was to keep us up at night, you know.
But for Belushi, it meant temptation.
He tried to what we call white knuckle it. He tried to just avoid all this. You can only do that so long. It's like trying not to eat. You can only go so long without eating. Eventually, you're going to eat.
He stopped lots of times. Yeah. He had a fairly long, seemingly successful time. But you know, in retrospect, clearly whatever that wasn't dealt with. He was just in abstinence. It's like the dry drunk, you know. If you stop drinking, but you haven't, it's the same thing. Whatever that is, whatever that's about.
Getting people off drugs is the easiest thing in the world. Anybody can get off drugs. The problem is staying off. And that's where the whole treatment process comes in. Now, many people believe, A, they can control it themselves, and you see this is not a volitional process, so they can't. Or that, B, they could substitute it with something else, like exercise and yoga and all these things. And that will work for a time. But inevitably, when there's a stress, when there's drugs available, they will relapse.
He could be triggered because he didn't feel, he had a scene on the show he really wanted to be on, and it wouldn't be on, and that could trigger it. He could have had some great success. It was so exciting that it triggered it. So I just think drug addiction, ultimately, there is some kind of chemical imbalance or dysfunction going on. And I think there seems to be new research all the time, and maybe one day someone can tell us all about this, but I really don't know. I just don't know.
Intervention back then was not a tool that was used. Today, if we had a problem like this, we'd get 6 to 10 people together. We'd get the guy or girl in a room and sit them down and say, it's going to stop, you're going into rehab, that's it, and the flex cuffs would come out. Now, I mean, now that's what we do. Back then, that was not, you know, not a technique that was widespread.
After filming Neighbors, Belushi's cocaine addiction took hold again. With each hit, he was slowly killing himself. And on his final day, he was far from those who could have saved him. It's just before dawn. John Belushi has 6 hours left to live. He's been injecting cocaine and heroin all day. He complains of feeling cold. Kathy Smith puts him to bed and turns up the heat. Belushi lapses into sleep or unconsciousness.
He's dying of his disease at this point. This is not an overdose. This is toxic, chronic toxic effects on the body, overwhelming him finally.
Smith writes a letter and orders toast and coffee from room service. At 10:15 a.m., she makes one last check on Belushi. He's snoring. She puts her drug paraphernalia, a syringe and spoon, into her purse and leaves. Belushi is now alone in the bungalow. His wife Judy and best friend Aykroyd are at home in New York.
Sure, I mean, I felt like I should have been with him that whole time out there. It would have been different if I was there. But you come back to a point where you realize, well, first of all, it might not have been different if I was there. And it's just a life, you know, life. You got to let go of it. You got to know that's what that's what happened. That's all that you can. There's no more. That's it. Can't redo. So.
Or I was going to go out there that night. You know, it was just that close. You know, it was really close, like a hair close. You know. Yeah. You know, of course, I will always feel for the rest of my life that maybe I didn't do enough, and but he was alienating us at the end as well, you know, and pushing us away, and he'd get real mad if you took the coke away, and you know, and you know, it was. But I'll live with that for the rest of my life. That we didn't get there in time.
Belushi has been lying unconscious in his hotel bed for hours. Then at 12 p.m., Bill Wallace, Belushi's assistant, arrives at the bungalow with a typewriter Belushi wanted for script writing.
John!
Wallace immediately senses something is wrong. He can't hear John's usual snoring.
John, come on. We're gonna be late.
He walks into the bedroom telling Belushi it's time to get up. Belushi is curled up on his right side. Wallace shakes him. There's no response. He discovers Belushi is not breathing. His first instinct is to call Brillstein.
We're in trouble. First words, we're in trouble. What do you mean in trouble? He's sleeping, won't get up? No, he's having a problem breathing. And I said, oh. And I went into action like I knew what I was doing. I had my assistant call 911.
John, come on, wake up, John. Come on, John, wake
Wallace
up.
pounds on Belushi's chest, tears in his eyes, crying, "You dumb son of a bitch."
Wake up! Come on, John.
I went to the Cedars-Sinai to wait at the emergency entrance so no one would know John was coming over.
At the Chateau Marmont, paramedics place Belushi on the floor. Not knowing he's already dead, they suspect a heart attack. They try to revive him, but soon give up.
Is that all you're gonna do?
Wallace protests, but they say it's too late. John Belushi died on the morning of the 5th of March, 1982. At the Cedars-Sinai Hospital, Brillstein waits and waits. The ambulance is not coming.
And finally, one of my assistants called and said, Bernie, you can come home, John is dead. And what do you do when you're alone in a phone booth? No one had a cell phone then. And one of your best friends died. You can't believe it. I, of course, felt responsible. You know? I know everyone says this wasn't your fault. He would have gotten the money someplace else. But I gave him the $1,800. You know? Do I wish I hadn't? Sure. It was his money. You know? He had made it for me. I gave it to him. And I guess the guitar is still there.
The police arrive at the Chateau Marmont, then the media. The word will soon be out.
The first thought I had was, Judy's going to hear it on the radio. I called Danny in his 25th Street office, got him on the phone and said, Danny, don't ask me what to do. I'm telling you, John is dead. It's not a joke.
I was writing Ghostbusters at the time, and I was writing a line for him when the call came from Mr. Brillstein that he'd gone. And I immediately got up and went outside to get to Judy. I didn't want to take a cab. I didn't want to be carried. I had to move myself. Otherwise, I would have just buckled to my knees. And I ran down to Judy's from 5th and 23rd. I ran down to Morton Street.
I heard someone punching the lock and run up the stairs, and it was Danny.
And I told her before anyone else knew, you know, that he was gone. And, but it was essential for me to get there before she heard it from someone else. So.
And, you know, that's a real good friend. Okay. So.
It was 2 weeks later that coroner Thomas Noguchi confirmed the cause of death.
The office issued the official death certificate described as acute cocaine and heroin intoxication.
An examination of Belushi's arms revealed that he'd been injecting for some time.
He had injection sites both sides. I mean, no, this is not an overdose. This is toxic effect of intravenous drugs. It's hard for me to believe that he was doing intravenous drugs for only 4 or 5 days. This does not look like that kind of situation at all. It's like somebody's been doing it for a while and finally dies of it.
Kathy Smith was arrested and eventually served 18 months in prison for her part in the tragedy. She was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Every year, thousands of fans still make the pilgrimage to Martha's Vineyard just to stand at Belushi's grave.
So somehow he's just touched people in that way, and I think when you actually have people feeling that you've made a difference in their life, then they don't forget you.
Four years of television and 7 movies, and we're still talking about him. Isn't that amazing?
You get a sense that we do meet those who've gone before, and we meet them in the form that we knew them. And they meet us in the form that they knew us. And just for a while, not forever, not for eternity, there is a reunion there. And it's going to be one rockin' night.
Marvin Gaye was a superstar, a Motown legend.
He was the prince of Motown, and he was truly that kind of a person.
He had that kind of charisma where the ladies just loved him.
But the smooth exterior and golden voice hid another very different Marvin Gaye. Paranoid, suicidal, addicted to cocaine.
When he was good, he was really, really good, and when he was bad, he just wanted to get the hell out of the way.
In 24 hours, a lifelong family feud would finally come to an end. Marvin will be dead, shot by his father. March 31st, 1984. Marvin Gaye is one of the most successful recording artists in the world. After a grueling year-long tour, he's retreated to his parents' house in LA. In less than 24 hours, he'll be dead. For the past 6 months, Marvin has been struggling with a growing depression.
There came a time when he just put on a bathrobe and was just there in the house. He just never left.
It was crazy, dog. We did everything about it, though. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Hey, bro, come on, Marvin. Come on in, dog. Hey,
Marvin Gaye is addicted to cocaine. Since moving in with his parents, his use has increased steadily. It's caused tension with his father, having junkies and dealers constantly coming to the house.
what's been up?
When Marvin came back to LA, he just wanted to be left alone, but everybody came out of the woodwork. So there was constant traffic at the house, day and night.
Is that a fact? You know, yeah, we can party here. Yeah?
Any normal household doesn't have 20 or 30 people coming and going all day long, every day. And it gets old very quick, and Father was just tired of it.
I know she was all over.
It's a little too much activity for him. He liked to remain peaceful in his room without any activity going on around him.
Marvin and his father have been locked in a power struggle since he was a child. But now Marvin is the breadwinner. He bought the family home in LA, a fact his father resents.
There's a struggle between who was going to be the head of that family. And theories, life and religion and everything else, and all the blow and everything that's going on there in his house. His father would think, I guess, which it was, I guess.
The one person who's always held the family together is Marvin's mother. She has her own bedroom between her husband and her son.
I think the deal that Marvin had was he started putting his mother in the middle of it because, you know, I can't fight you back there, but I can get mama for you, and she loved him to death. And he basically used his mama, you know, against his daddy.
Marvin's mom, in many ways, was a peacemaker and a negotiator and a referee and a nurturer. I think that she was his anchor. I think that she was the one place that he felt love.
My father always knew there was a closeness between Marvin and his wife. He always knew that.
Marvin's father is jealous of their relationship and his son's success.
They were like in two different worlds. They didn't acknowledge each other. I've never seen such a strained relationship between two people. You could kind of feel the vitriol.
You know, there seemed to be some love there, but they were always in conflict. They were always seemingly in conflict.
In 22 hours, the bitter hatred between father and son will explode in violence. "45 years before, in Washington, D.C., Marvin Pence Gaye was born, the second of 4 children, the son of a preacher.
My father was a very strict man. He believed in discipline, very much so. And being a minister in a church, and you know what people say about preachers' children, sometimes feel the worst. I've heard that all my life. So he was determined we were not going to be the worst.
He just wanted the perfect family. And everything had to run the way that father wanted it because he had this dream of, you know, the perfect family.
Marvin's father enforced his will through violence.
We were punished, and Marvin received more punishment than the rest of us because he was a maverick. I always called him that. Even as a child, he did things differently.
Marvin would test father. Frankie would tell me Marvin would test father a lot.
The power struggle that they had actually was, in many ways, a way that Marvin sought approval and acceptance from his dad.
Instead of using compassion, softness, tenderness, then he began to dictate and dominate. And he became a force, a power in his family, which turned his children.
From age 7, Marvin suffered routine whippings. He also had to endure the shame of having a father who wore women's clothing.
His father was not only a cross-dresser, but he was a very flamboyant and out there cross-dresser.
He'd have his little, you know, ladies' slippers on, pumps, and, you know, slide around and sandal things and waltz around. He was proud of it, so he didn't care.
Neighbors knew about Marvin's father. Kids called him names, sissy and homosexual.
The image of his dad as a preacher, this powerful, cross-dressing, church front preacher who would come home and wear his wife's clothes, the shame that imposed upon Marvin.
Marvin's childhood was a daily torment, full of pain and confusion. His salvation was music. At age 5, Marvin began singing gospel. His voice won him instant praise.
People were amazed at his voice. He loved all the attention he was getting. All the nice things they were saying to my mother and father. Where did this boy get such a beautiful voice?
Marvin's voice was his ticket out of his father's house. By his late teens, Marvin was singing for money. His father was furious. To him, it was the devil's music.
He did not sanction his son going into the secular world. And that was one of the things that hurt him so bad. He was permitted to do it or to venture into that field by his mother.
She supported him, she encouraged him. And I think that is one of the primary reasons that she was so important in his life. She symbolized for him what it would be like, unconditional love.
Resented by his father, indulged by his mother, this dynamic would define Marvin Gaye's life. But it was his father's ominous threat that would end it.
My father has always taught us, even from children, that we don't talk back, number one, and we certainly don't act as though we want to do any harm, number two. And he's always said if we did anything, to raise our voices at him in that manner or to strike, that he brought us in this world, and he can take us out. He used to tell us that we were little kids.
The children knew to take his threat seriously. And on the last day of Marvin Gaye's life, his father would prove himself a man of his word. Los Angeles, California. It's late afternoon. Soul superstar Marvin Gaye has just 18 hours to live. He's staying with his parents, a father who beat him as a child and a mother who's always been his strongest support.
Marvin and his mother had a wonderful relationship. They were really close and, you know, shared a lot of things together, and they loved to laugh together. You could walk, you know, down the hall in the house and you would hear laughter coming from the bedroom. And they had a good time together.
But there was always tension in the house.
It doesn't take much for things to erupt, you know that. So that particular day, of course, was a day that my father had been drinking. And there was an argument with my mother over some business papers.
Unpaid taxes and 2 divorces have forced Marvin to sell off his properties. Gaye Sr. is worried his home might be in jeopardy.
There was just a lot of everything folding. The studio's gone, you know, the Hidden Hills is going, this is going, that's going, it's all gone. What else is gonna go? And I think it might have been in the back of Father's mind. Plus, him just trying to make sure that his son knew that he was a failure, no matter how famous he was.
Look at that! Mother! Knowing my father, he probably raised his voice at my mother. I don't think Marvin would have intervened if he didn't think he had to protect my mother from something.
Hey, who do you think? What are you talking about? What are you looking at?
Knowing Marvin, he probably told him not to talk to his mother that way. And knowing my father, he probably told him to stay out of it. And knowing Marvin again, he probably stayed in it.
Listen, look, don't you ever... Get out. Get out.
Marvin, please don't speak to the father.
Marvin's reliance on cocaine is making him edgy, volatile, and paranoid. He's convinced someone is trying to kill him.
He had a .38 pistol in his pocket at all times, loaded. I told him about how worried I was. In fact, he was doing these drugs and he never came out of the house. He was walking around with this loaded pistol. And
I said, I'm really worried about this. He said, oh, Dave, you don't have to be worried.
But there's good reason to worry. The house is stockpiled with weapons. When Marvin moved back home 6 months ago, he gave a gun to his father.
You know, one of the biggest ironies is that Marvin thought he was being chased and followed and pursued, and someone was looking to kill him. So he gave his father a gun, so his father might shoot the person looking to kill Marvin.
It was a fateful decision. Marvin had put the gun in the hand of his killer. Three years before, Motown, the music industry machine that would soon churn out a dizzying number of hits, was just finding its feet. In 1960, Motown was the only record label that gave black artists a shot at becoming superstars. Marvin Gaye was chasing that dream.
He was a drummer, and you know, he hung around the studio, and he was looking to get noticed, and the competition was keen. You know, his initial struggle at Motown was to get people to pay attention to him.
Marvin's boyish good looks caught the public's eye. His velvet voice made them listen. In just over a year, he had a hit song, Stubborn Kind of Fellow. Gaye was making a name for himself, but with the spotlight came hurtful rumors.
They came to my dressing room and said, you have a call backstage. And I went to the phone, and when I got there, they said, did you know that Marvin was gay? And I just hung up the phone because I got upset about it. But people teased him about the G-A-Y.
Marvin wasn't gay, but questions about his sexuality brought back the shame he felt as a child, as the son of a cross-dresser. Before going on tour, Gaye added an E to the end of his name. But on stage, there was no confusion. To his female fans, Marvin Gaye was a sex symbol.
I remember on one of the Motown reviews, the fans went crazy. And I'm walking down this big hallway, and I hear somebody say, Kim Weston, Kim Weston. Oh, man, am I glad to see you. And I look around and hear Marvin hiding in the doorway. And I said, what are you doing? He said, they're everywhere. All the girls were after him, so he's gonna walk with me to find out where I was going. As soon as we walked out the door, there was a bunch of them. He said, oh, there he is. And he just didn't know what to do. He tried to run, but they got him. So I walked onto the bus. I said, I think you all better go rescue Marvin, because they got him back there.
Marvin had his pick of admirers. In 1963, he chose Anna Gordy, sister of Motown head Berry Gordy. She was 17 years older than him.
There was a mother image there, and I think he saw things in her that he may have desired his mother to have, because his mother was very passive, and Anna was, yeah, she was out there.
Anna was more than a mother figure. She was a powerful woman who could help his career.
Like everything else in Marvin's life, I think Marvin's relationship to Anna was really complicated. I think they loved each other deeply, but she was a Gordy, you know, and he saw in her a way to climb the ladder of success and give him a head start on everybody else.
Soon, Marvin got top billing and became one of Motown's biggest names. He had a unique style. It was so unusual that his recording of I Heard It Through the Grapevine was initially shelved.
It was so different, we just could not picture it in the top 10. We knew it was good, it was super good, but it was just way too different. And so finally they decided to recut the song on Gladys Knight and the Pips.
I Heard It Through the Grapevine was a hit for Gladys Knight and the Pips. The song's success convinced Motown to release Marvin's version in 1968. It immediately outsold Gladys Knight's and became Motown's biggest single ever, selling nearly 4 million copies.
What it did for Marvin was it gave him clout, and it set him up for his next move, which was, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to be produced by anybody else. I'm going to write this suite of songs that pays no attention to what they're playing on the radio these days. I'm going to become an artist with a capital A, and that means my first allegiance is to my art and not to commerce and not to making Mr. Gordy happy or anybody else happy, that I have to make my own sort of personal muse happy. And I have to answer to God, not to the Motown Corporation. So Heard It Through the Grapevine was the key that unlocked the door to Marvin's independence.
The success of Grapevine freed Marvin of the controlling influence of Berry Gordy and allowed him to record the songs that would make him a superstar. Evening has fallen on Los Angeles. Marvin Gaye has just 15 hours to live. He is staying with his parents in LA, where he spent the afternoon in a bitter argument with his domineering father. Marvin is addicted to cocaine. In his paranoid delusions, he believes someone is trying to kill him. For protection, he stocked the house with guns, but now fears his brother, who lives next door, wants to harm him.
Where's my gun?
What do you need a gun for?
What do you mean I need a... People are after me.
You don't need a gun.
I need a gun.
Come on, Marvin.
Frankie said, Marvin, you don't need a gun. And he goes, oh, even you've turned against me, now I can't trust you.
Calm down.
I knew where the gun was, so I went and got it. And I made sure there were no bullets in it. And I gave Frankie the gun.
I need my gun, man.
Because I saw how upset Marvin was getting.
Give me my gun.
And he took the gun from Frankie.
No, you got what you want.
And he checked, and there were no bullets. So he got really upset because he wouldn't help him. And then he walked out the door. And before he slammed it, he just said, even you're not my friend anymore. You've turned against me. He just slammed the door and walked down the steps.
The hell with you. You are not my brother.
Desperate, Frankie calls their friend Dave Simmons to come up with a plan to help Marvin.
Dave, hey, it's Frankie. Listen, man.
We were just determined to do something. We had no idea what we were going to do exactly, whether we had to actually physically restrain him. We had no idea where we were going to try to take him to. But we just knew that we had to do something.
Frankie was just like, you know, what have I done wrong? You know, I'm just trying to protect him. Frankie knew what state of mind he was in and how he was just being tormented inside and was totally miserable, and he just didn't want to see him get in more trouble.
He was crazy. He had gotten really just gone really crazy, you know. And the way Frankie described the way he looked physically, you know, he said he was just, had his coat all buttoned, kind of crazy, and he was just out of it, gone, you know.
Dave and Frankie are convinced Marvin needs treatment.
Marvin had told my mother he was going to go to a hospital and dry himself out. And she was holding him to that promise. And he was gearing up towards it, too. So he never went, but he was going to.
In reality, Marvin's cocaine abuse is getting worse. In the last few years, he'd started freebasing. The drug was killing him slowly.
It was crazy because it destroyed him, basically, because, you know, most of the membranes in his nose were gone. It had burned out. And, you know, I don't know. I know, you know, he always smoked. But that was nothing, you know, just smoke. But then I think he probably smoked less and just did more cocaine. Just got to the point where he just took over everything, and, you know, he was just not himself at all, you know.
Many black people have a very high tolerance for discomfort. I believe that, you know, we feel bad. We feel bad all the time, and that's just the way it is for us, and we'll deal with it. So I'm not surprised at all that Marvin Gaye never sought treatment, because I think that he believed that he should be able to do this on his own.
In the final hours of his life, Marvin was a slave to his addiction and at war with his father. The deadly combination of drugs and conflict would soon end his life. "14 years earlier, the Vietnam War was at its height, and Marvin Gaye was about to hit his peak. With the success of I Heard It Through the Grapevine, Marvin had won creative control over his next album.
Marvin had a lot of talent and a lot of creativity, and he had more ability than most of the producers that were there at the time.
Marvin took inspiration from the Vietnam War to write one of the most successful concept albums of all time. What's Going On was a tribute to his brother Frankie, who fought in the war.
What's Going On, Marvin dedicated to Frankie because of all his stories. He gave him the inspiration to write that album.
It was a masterpiece. With What's Going On, Marvin resurrected deeply held spiritual beliefs. He was delivering a message about poverty, racism, and war.
Marvin was the type of man who carried the world on his shoulders. Everything affected him. He felt he wanted to do something about it, and the only way he could do anything about it, he thought, was through music.
Marvin wanted his music to matter, that he would be the voice of someone and that would inspire social change.
But Motown was about upbeat dance music. Berry Gordy hated What's Going On. He refused to release it.
Berry Gordy's reaction was one of how would a Marvin Gaye fan relate to this?
Marvin came to my hotel room after I left Motown, and he told me, he says, "Kim," he says, "I recorded the best album I've ever done, and nobody likes it. Not my wife, not Berry Gordy, nobody likes it." And I said, "Marvin, do you like it?" He says, "It's the best thing I've ever done."
Marvin swore he'd never record another song unless Motown released What's Going On. They did in 1971. It was an immediate sensation. 500,000 copies sold in the first day.
Tonight, I'm so proud to have the greatest singer in the world in the auditorium tonight. It's Marvin Gaye.
The next year, Marvin made a triumphant return home. Washington, D.C. proclaimed May 1st Marvin Gaye Day. It gave Marvin something he'd never had before, the respect and admiration of his father.
To be hugged by his father in public, oh yes. That was a wonderful thing for my father to walk up to him and say, "Son, I'm so proud of you. This is wonderful. You have really caused me to be very proud of you." And so that was a good thing. Very good.
I wasn't there for Marvin Gaye Day in 1972, but I have a feeling it was, he talked about it a lot, and I think it was a big deal. I think it was like a little happy moment, actually, one of these Polaroid pictures where Mommy and Daddy and Marvin were reunited, and I think it was sweet.
Everyone in the community came, and it was a big deal, and then Wham, and people in Motown and others that may not have known Marvin's family that well saw, and I think they were in the public's eye, and so I think he wanted to do the right thing, and I think he really, just had a change of heart. He was going to give it his good shot. He was going to do his part if Dad would do his part.
I think it's one of those snapshots out of his life of perhaps what could have been had there been true harmony between Mom, Dad, and Marvin, had there been some kind of reconciliation, had there been some kind of deep understanding. On that day, it was okay. but that day was a very isolated day and a very extraordinary day, and a day not at all typical.
Tragically, this was a fleeting moment of happiness. Father and son would never find a lasting peace. The years of conflict and violence had left scars too deep to heal. It's early morning in LA. Marvin Gaye has less than 4 hours to live. Yesterday's argument over money has been simmering since last night.
Good morning, Mother Gaye.
Good morning.
Marvin's sister-in-law brings breakfast for his mother. She tells her to give it to Marvin. Even this small act of favoritism is seen as an insult by Marvin's father.
You could just tell. You could tell when Father's mom, just by the glare down the hallway, he was upset that Mother didn't say, give Father the breakfast instead of give Marvin the breakfast. Because I believe Father built up a jealousy over Marvin and Mother's relationship because she paid so much attention to Marvin.
Marvin was her baby, and you know, if there was any choice between the two, it would always be Marvin. And you know, he loved her so much, and if there was any animosity or jealousy, it would have been on the father's part, because I don't think Marvin felt that you know, she favored the father over him at any time.
As she sets down the breakfast, Marvin's sister-in-law notices he's in a bad way.
Marvin didn't look well. He looked absolutely wiped out. He looked like he hadn't slept for days. He just looked tired. It was almost like he just wanted to give up.
Okay, well, make sure you have some later, okay? It'll make you feel better.
In fact, over the last few weeks, those who knew him well believed Marvin was contemplating suicide.
He had a desire not to live. And so when I think of it in terms of the uses of drugs and everything, he was basically trying to take himself out. But he was a very strong individual.
As he wakes, Marvin is in pain physically and mentally. He's exhausted, his body wrecked by years of drug abuse. He was a man looking for a way out. Ten years earlier, Marvin was at the top of his game. What's Going On had secured his place among the greats of soul music. With his career on track, he tried to make a fresh start with his family. He moved to Hollywood and bought his parents a house in LA. But his success failed to bring the Gaye family closer together.
Once we moved into what we call the big house on Gramercy, things started deteriorating, I would say. I noticed that my father was becoming more and more recluse, which meant he didn't want to go anywhere or do anything. And it was my mother who was going places and doing things. My mother would accompany my brother on his tours. But it's not that he never asked my father. He would always ask him, and he would always say no.
Marvin's father still frowned on his son's career, even though he lived off his royalties.
His father withheld the approval to his son to the point of destroying him. Unfortunately, I beg to differ on father. I think he was very, very poisoned by negativity, and it was important to him to play takeaway with people that wanted something from him. And Marvin really wanted it from him. He hated it. He loved him at the same time. You know, it's just, he didn't want any acknowledgement from him. Then he really wanted everything from him. So it was just like, it just became a curse on Marvin, you know? And it just drove him into everything in his life like that. His music, his relationships, his kids, everything.
Marvin pulled away from his father again and immersed himself in the LA music scene.
LA in the 1970s had this kind of coke plague, where everybody was tooting and rooting and going crazy with cocaine, and particularly in the music world.
It wasn't long before Marvin was addicted to cocaine.
I saw it increase. First, it was just a little bit here and there if there were parties or this and that. It became just off the hook. Eating it, smoking it, any kind of way you can take it. It made him real nervous and uptight and paranoid. All the symptoms of that type of a drug,
Marvin's marriage to Anna Gordy fell apart, and he hooked up with 16-year-old Janice Hunter.
She was this absolutely gorgeous teenager.
They met while Marvin was recording Let's Get It On, his tribute to sexual freedom. She became his second wife, and Marvin set about creating his ideal woman.
I think he saw in Jan a way to mold a woman, take this teenager and turn her into what he thought a woman should be.
Marvin's ideal woman was his mother, but it was an image no one could live up to.
I believe that he held her up as a standard by which he gauged the morality, the ability to commit, the perseverance, the charm, the grace that his mom had. And then he, in turn, created a self-fulfilling prophecy that, nobody's going to be able to do it for me.
As Janice failed to meet his expectations, their relationship blew apart. Infidelities led to jealousy and quickly turned to rage.
Well, I had to go underground with my sister for a week or two because he was threatening to kill her. Until he called one day and said, all right, it's over. I want to see my girl. And she went back to him, and, then they went on another vacation.
Marvin had this ability to shoot himself in the foot. Marvin had this ability or this uncanny psychological mechanism which would undermine happiness. And he would figure out a way to complicate his life. He loved drama. He loved emotional drama. He went for pain. He found ways to hurt himself over and over and over again.
It's very common that addicts and alcoholics will sabotage their own success because it's a lot easier to kind of stay in the addiction and get applause for doing 50%. Whereas if you're supposed to have it together, the expectation is that you're going to do 100%.
With a constant supply of cocaine, Marvin was becoming the violent, controlling man who had tormented him as a child, his father. On his last day, Marvin and his father are locked in a power struggle, seething at opposite ends of the house. A lifetime of resentment will soon end in tragedy. It's late morning. Marvin Gaye has just 2 hours to live. Marvin is staying with his parents in LA. Addicted to cocaine, he's suffering paranoid delusions. He thinks someone wants to kill him. His father is fed up with his son's madness and drug use. When he can't find some important business papers, his anger explodes.
Mother!
When he storms into Marvin's room, another bitter quarrel erupts.
Mother, where are those papers?
Marvin, his whole life, was told what to do, not just by his father, but by Motown and everybody else. And when he came back home, things from the past just sort of built up.
For the first time in his life, Marvin strikes his father.
And I'm sure Marvin may have pushed him. And when he fell, Marvin kicked him for what my mother said, and then he got up and went into his room.
I warned you. You don't talk to me. You don't do your shit.
Marvin's father leaves the room humiliated, all respect for his authority gone.
A lot of young men, they grow up in homes where they're under the thumb of an oppressive, critical parent who had convinced them all their lives that they weren't good enough. And so part of their growing up and coming into their own and being successful is an opportunity for them to say to the parent, screw you, I got the power now. See?
I knew in my heart that if my brother or any of us struck my father, that he would do something terrible. Because my father had always told us that he would if we ever did.
Five years earlier, ravaged by his cocaine addiction, Marvin's career had stalled and he was on the run from the taxman. Federal agents had seized his house in LA for failure to pay taxes, and he was living out of a van in Hawaii.
I'm trying to think of a good word to use for how he saw money. He was very free with it, for one thing. And he didn't take it truly serious. He didn't.
He wasn't a person that cared about money, so you couldn't lure him into doing this and doing that by mentioning some figure. It was just, he was a kind-hearted person.
He bought himself a Rolls Royce and bought himself a couple of houses and a place in Jamaica and never went to Jamaica. I mean, he just lived in chaos.
In Hawaii, Marvin was running from his problems. He was at war with everyone, his wife Janice, Motown, and the IRS.
That's where he fell into really great depression. And his cocaine habit worsened. You know, he was getting high all the time.
I guess the whole thing about Hawaii was just sort of like, take the people that were into the same kind of sadness and self-destructiveness and do it for a while.
After 7 months, mounting debt forces Marvin Gaye back onto the stage. But a tour in Britain ended in scandal when Gaye skipped a concert and left Princess Margaret waiting for hours. Once again, Marvin went into hiding, this time in Belgium. Away from the pressures and temptations of LA, Marvin began to rally. In 1982, CBS paid $1.5 million to buy out his contract with Motown.
And it was in Ostend where Marvin began to recover and build up enough strength to make his sort of last comeback.
Marvin was off cocaine, but his failed relationships with women haunted him. Ritz visited him in Belgium, where he saw Gaye's apartment filled with sadomasochistic drawings.
I think he was tortured by the fact that he never had a good romantic female relationship. And I remember saying to Marvin, this is sick. What you really need is sexual healing. And he said, I love that idea. I want, you know, just sort of write a poem about it. So I wrote these lyrics, and he immediately took them and put a melody to it.
Sexual Healing and the album Midnight Love became the first hits Marvin had had in 9 years, winning him 2 Grammys. But back in LA, he became hooked once again on cocaine. On his final concert tour, Marvin's addiction spiraled out of control. While millions of fans reveled in his performance, backstage, Marvin was self-destructing.
It was not an easy tour to keep control of, and it became pathetic because you had loved ones bringing in drugs and you couldn't keep it away from it.
I went to a couple of concerts, but I was not on the tour. I wouldn't even go close to it. It was crazy. He thought someone was trying to kill him.
Marvin insisted on having his brother beside him at all times as a decoy for his imagined killer. They looked so much alike. The cocaine was driving Marvin insane.
That is very consistent with heavy daily cocaine use. And actually, one of the number one reasons that we see addicts in a psychiatric unit is for a drug-induced psychosis.
It's the beginning of, I think, the most tortured part of his life, when he loses his mind. And out of his mind constructs a kind of a screenplay of his own death. And it all begins, I think, on this final tour.
As the tour ground on, Marvin began stripping down to his underwear while singing Sexual Healing.
And to me, it was very sad because it showed that he wasn't feeling the love that people were offering him. And he was feeling like an object. Ultimately, he didn't understand that he was deeply loved by his fans, deeply loved for who he was, this complicated character.
After the tour, a broken Marvin Gaye retreated to his parents' house. It was a fatal mistake.
He returned to the source of his psychological dilemma. And by now it's worse. It's exacerbated by his drug use, by his dad's alcoholism. There's no clarity.
Marvin Gaye has less than 1 hour to live. In a violent argument, Marvin has just struck his father for the first time in his life. Some believe he knew exactly what the consequence would be.
Kicking your father. Son, Marvin.
I told him if you keep bothering your father, he means it when he says, I brought you in this world, and if you ever get me out, I'll take you out.
After bringing breakfast to Marvin, his sister-in-law is back in her apartment next to the main house. Marvin's brother Frankie is with her. They're unaware of the fight going on next door.
Marvin! Kicking.
By beating his father, some believe Marvin had found a way to end his life.
Marvin was really and truly, as he explained to me, in no uncertain terms, he didn't want to live.
Without explanation, he just shot him.
I heard the pops of the gun.
Frankie, I just heard a gunshot.
What shot? I didn't hear a thing.
No, I heard 2 gunshots like 2 seconds ago.
Are you sure?
And he said,
sure
oh no,
you
that
didn't
was
hear
just a car on the freeway. It must have been. And I said, Frankie, it sounded like a gun to me. And he said, no, we live right next to the freeway, you know. She collapsed in my arms, and I'm asking her, what's wrong? What's wrong? And all that I could hear was shot. And I'm like, you're shot? And she said, no, father shot Marvin.
Marvin Gaye has been shot twice, once in the shoulder, once in the chest. One of the bullets has damaged several vital organs, and he's losing blood fast. Marvin's brother Frankie rushes into the house, but he's cautious, scared that his father may attack again. Marvin is conscious when Frankie finds him. He yells to Irene to call 911 and then waits with his brother for the paramedics to arrive. His father is still armed and in the house.
He was conscious when Frankie was holding him. But
Paramedics arrive in under 10 minutes, but they refuse to enter the house while Marvin's father and the gun are still inside.
Father? Father?
So I found Father. He was sitting on his bed.
It's Irene.
And I'm asking him, where did you put the gun, Father? And he was just sitting there, very calm. And he looked up at me and said, "What gun?" It was just like there was nobody home. And I said, "The paramedics are here and they need to come in and they won't come until the gun is outside. Please tell me where the gun is." And he just bowed his head. I was going through his drawers and everything, looking for the gun. And I flipped his pillow and it was under his pillow.
Marvin is dying in his brother's arms. A full 20 minutes pass before paramedics can get to him.
If Marvin didn't die on the spot, he died on his way to the hospital.
I remember the one at the end of the stretcher asking me, did I know his name? And when I said, it's Marvin Gaye, he looked at me twice and he said, "You don't mean the Marvin Gaye?" And I said, "Yes," and he just started to cry.
You can't really describe the hurt and the pain. Because when you love someone, it's just a hurt that you cannot describe.
I remember coming out of a baseball game on that day, on April 1st, April Fool's Day, and hearing on the radio Marvin Gaye's, father has shot and killed Marvin. And I thought to myself, that's how he's going to do it. Oh my God. That's so Marvin. That's so perversely brilliant.
The official time of death is 1:01 p.m., April 1st, 1984. The next day, Marvin Gaye would have turned 45. Marvin Gaye Sr. pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and received a 5-year suspended sentence. His son remains one of the most influential musicians of his time.